If there's one thing that I've learned about solitude in the past few years, it's that it's transformative, and that when you are alone is when you are your truest self. It's only when you are alone that you get to really assess the impact that other people have been having upon you. Me personally, this is my story. I remember when I first started secondary school, I had to move to a brand new secondary school about 6 months after I started my first year. So just as I had settled in my first school, I had to leave and go and start somewhere brand new. Now this was obviously very daunting for me at the time, already being a shy and introverted individual as I am myself now. And that only really started to develop for me as I got into my secondary school years, because I remember being a young kid, I was very extroverted. You know, I was constantly around people and I had a massive social battery, and I really enjoyed being around people and being excitable. But I guess as I grew up and as I matured, that part of myself changed and I become much more introspective and introverted. I preferred solitude, but I never really honoured that until I was forced to, until it was right. So when I first started year 7, I settled in. I had a nice group of friends that I got along with well, and I was able to socialise with well. So I had a good little social circle building around me. And that's very important when you're a young kid, because there's a lot of pressure to fit in when you're in a new environment, to be accepted, to be welcomed into the tribe. Because kids, as you probably know, are very tribalistic and can be quite mean and vicious at points. You know, treating kids that aren't accepted and aren't in the group as out-group and outcasts. And I really got to experience that when I moved to my second school. So when I first started, everybody had already established their little groups, and I found it very hard to try and weave my way into any specific group. I found that I was just on my own, and the reason why is because I didn't have the confidence to express myself and put myself out there and actually try and show people who I was. I didn't really know who I was. You know, I had had a lot of traumatic childhood experiences that fractured my sense of self, and a lot of my thoughts were centered not on myself but on the world, and the thoughts that I did have about myself were very negative, very critical, very judgmental. I remember once, not long after starting year 7, I went to my dad and I just cried, and I was absolutely weeping because I hated myself, literally hated myself. I just wanted to fit in more than anything. I wanted to be accepted by my peers, and it just wasn't happening for me. And partly it was my own fault because I wasn't coming out of my shell. I was staying in it, and their rejection was pushing me further into my shell rather than encouraging me to be more outgoing and show more of myself and develop myself more and try harder. It made me pull back. And I remember my teachers at school, they could tell that there was like a problem with me. And so they started talking to me, you know, about my past and my childhood experiences and stuff like that. And it was very well documented at the time. And so I already had like therapy and talks with people, you know, whether it be the school counsellors, the pastoral leaders, whatever, about what had gone on in my childhood and how it shaped me and how I felt and how I was doing and how I was settling in and things like that. But for that first year that I started that second school, I was very depressed, very alone, very empty. I still was, I played a lot of video games at the time. It was like my escape from reality, my escape from the place that I wasn't accepted to where I was accepted. And Fortnite was very popular at the time. It was a very big game. It would just come out. It was becoming very popular, and I was playing that at the time a lot. I was playing it a lot, and I was playing with my old friends who I'd connected with at my old school over the console. You know, we all had an Xbox and we were all playing together, and so I still stayed in contact with them because they accepted me, right? They made me feel worthy and valuable. And so that was my little recourse, that was my little escape from reality, from where I wasn't accepted. You know, I'd jump in a party with my friends and I'd be laughing, we'd be having fun, making jokes, you know, getting along, and that's really what I wanted. And so I do feel like that was a massive factor that contributed as to why I was playing so much video games at the time. But I got really good at Fortnite. I got really good to the point where I made a few friends, you know, coming up, spending a decent amount of time at my new school, you know, just being in class with people, sitting next to people. I ended up making a few decent friends, and we ended up playing the game together. We ended up playing the Fortnite together, and they ended up realizing how good I was at this game, because I was actually really good. And the word kind of got round the school that, hey, this kid's really good. Well, not the school, but the year, you know. I think this was year 7 or year 8. I think year 8, you know, because I joined the secondary school about 6 months into year 7, which is first year of secondary school if you're watching from America, which is like high school. And then year 8 is when I started to actually get a few more friends, get a bit more confident, get a bit more accepted by the people around me, and started to fit in a little bit more, started to find my place in the school a little bit more too. And it was in large part due to my friend at the time, Bilal. My friend Bilal, we were playing Fortnite together, and he was, you know, he wasn't like the most popular kid, but he wasn't the least popular kid. He was really in the middle, you know. He had quite a few friends and things like that. But I was like really unpopular at this time, and he was one of my closest friends, and like we really got along really well. And we were playing Fortnite, and he ended up telling a few people how good I was, and then we ended up playing with those people, and then those people were like, hey, I want to play with this guy, and then we ended up talking over console, and then we actually became quite close friends, you know. So that was a way that I was able to gain some respect from my peers, to be honest. I remember the best guy in the year at the time, we 1v1'd, because everybody was like, hey, this, like, he was pretty popular, the guy who was the best in the year. Well, everybody thought he was the best in the year, and he was pretty popular at the time. But I smashed him in a 1v1, 3-0. And I remember that feeling, I remember the nerves, because it was such a big moment for me. I knew that this was going to have massive social impact for me at school, and so I was ready, man, and I knew how good I was, and I was ready to go, and I smashed him, and from then on I got a lot more respect. But I didn't get respect in the same way that other people did, you know, because, you know, the main 2 ways to get popular if you're in school as a guy, as a male, was to be good at football or to be pretty strong, to be good at fighting. And I wasn't really either of those things. I was pretty good at football, and I could handle myself in a fight. You know, I was kind of like middle of the ground, a bit better than that at football, but middle of the ground at the fighting, but that doesn't really do much for you. You need to be exceptional for you to get a lot of respect. So it got me a bit of respect being good at the game, but still not, you know, I wasn't like popular or nothing like that. But it was a lot better than it was before, and it certainly contributed to an increase in my own self-esteem. And so that was pretty nice. And so that kind of continued. I started to, I don't know, be a bit more popular. You know, people started to actually respect me a bit more. And as the game kind of died and I stopped playing the game, I started to seek other ways to gain attention from my peers. I started to seek other ways to gain their approval. And so I became the class clown. Now everybody knows what the class clown is, right? The guy who plays the fool, the guy who does the things that makes everybody else laugh, who pretty much tarnishes his own chances at educational success just to be a laughing stock. And that's what I became for a while, you know. I had one friend who was the same as that, We kind of did that together. He was almost encouraging that in me. And we started doing very devious stuff, you know, like skipping lessons, smoking on the school grounds, fighting, vaping, you know, just stuff we shouldn't have been doing really, but stuff that, you know, kids do. So we started doing that, and that was, you know, that was what it was, but that was probably about year 9. And then after that, so that continued till probably around the end of year 10, or maybe the start of year 11. And what was happening was, my friends were still doing that kind of stuff, and that was getting me a level of attention from people, but it wasn't getting me respect. People just saw me as a kid who was, they could tell what my game was, they could tell what I was trying to do. And girls were noticing as well, because obviously girls like to be made laugh. And that was a massive part of it as well, you know. I wanted female attention, I wanted their attraction, and I didn't really know how to get it, you know. I wasn't really aware of any like self-improvement or nothing like that, or like being a better man, or like what is attractive to women or nothing like that. I knew making them laugh was an option. I knew being the funny guy, you know, the guy who doesn't care, the guy who's quite aggressive, the guy who doesn't give a fuck. I knew that that was something I could play, and that was what I did play for a while. But it was all an act, really. It was all an act, although it was a way to channel my aggression, because I didn't really have a way to do that until I found mixed martial arts, which we'll get into it in a minute. But yeah, it was just very interesting. It was very interesting to go through that and to experience how people changed their response to you. But what was more interesting was when I started to mature, when shit started getting serious for me, when, you know, my GCSEs were coming up, I knew I was going to be leaving school, and I knew that these results were going to be with me for the rest of my life. So I took that seriously, and the people around me, the friends that I had made, these kind of class clown kind of people, rebels, they didn't care, they weren't changing. And so I realized I had to separate myself from these people. And within that year of year 11, I changed so much as a person that people didn't recognize me, man. I went from the trying to get people's attention, trying to make people laugh, outwardly displaying aggression and, you know, this kind of don't give a fuck attitude to show people who I am, you know, trying to prove something, to the guy who was quietly confident, to the guy who was working away in silence, to the guy who was not bothered by people's attention whatsoever, who was just focused on his own goals and his own mission. And that was super powerful for me, and that did more for me and gained more respect for me and gained more attraction for me than anything previous had. You know, it was leaps and bounds different, and it was real as well. And that was when I realized, because I started spending more time on my own, I became like an outcast, right? I wasn't spending time with really anyone, not nearly as much as I was before. I always used to be around people, whereas on my breaks I'd literally go and stand. I'd go and find a classroom, I'd go and stand and meditate in that classroom, or sit down and meditate, or I'd go and read a book at lunch, you know, and things like that. And people be like, who is this guy? I don't recognize this guy. What happened? And when people tried to tell me that, I just say, I changed, man. I just changed. I'm different. And the reason why is because I spent more time alone. I started to ask myself what I really want, who I really want to be, what my goals are, what my mission and purpose is. And then I started to act more authentically with who I really was. And it felt amazing. I didn't need other people at that time. I was just okay with being on my own. And since then, it's kind of continued along a similar trajectory. I'm stuck in this, what some people call the lonely chapter, which is where you outgrow your old friends because you're no longer like them, you no longer resonate with them, you no longer respect them, you no longer share common interests, but you're not developed enough to fit in with a new group of friends yet, or you haven't put yourself in the places to meet those kinds of people yet. And so I'm still in this kind of purgatory zone, but I understand that solitude is powerful. I'm not running away from it. I'll never run away from it again, because it has taught me some very powerful things, some things that I want to talk about here. First of all, you are your real self, your truest self, when nobody else is watching. And I feel like this is why people are so comfortable online and on social media to express what they really think and put their most outrageous opinions out there, completely unfiltered, when they are anonymous on social media, because that gives them a protection. Nobody can trace it back to them, so they can say what they truly think, right? You learn to become the master of yourself, so you learn the value of self-discipline. You learn the power of controlling your desire, controlling your impulses, controlling your actions. You learn how important that is to succeed in life and be a better person and be who you really want to be. There are certain things that you're going to have to sacrifice. There are certain parts of your life you're going to need to discipline, like diet or, like your consumption of certain things. And you only can really start doing that when you spend more time alone to actually assess what direction you want your life to go in. You realize that all you need is inside of you. You realize that all desire for externals stems from the desire for some internal feeling. Now this resonates with me a lot because I was putting on all these external shows, this persona, this mask, to gain an internal feeling of acceptance, of validation. But I was looking at external resources to gain it, external methods. But then when I changed it to looking more on the internal, man, that's when it got real. That's when I started to feel a lot better, truly within myself. You want love to feel loved, respected, and admired. You want wealth to feel successful, secure, and free. It all comes from a desire for an internal feeling. And when you realize that you don't need that external apparatus to engender within you that feeling, and that you can do it if you have enough focus and dedication within yourself, you realize you have all the keys. Everything you need is within you, but you only realize that when you spend enough time with yourself. All of these feelings are causes, not effects. When you feel a certain way, it determines how you act. Whether we like to admit it or not, feelings play a large part in determining our actions. I'm a true believer that we shouldn't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions, but that doesn't change the fact that a lot of us do. And so, if how you feel determines how you act, you need to realize that you can choose to feel a certain way with enough focus, discipline, and dedication. If you just open your heart, if you just focus on feeling the feelings of how you truly want to feel and act from that place, do you think you'll get better results than if you were acting from a place of lack, than if you were acting from a place of feeling the opposite to how you would like to feel? So you're chasing, you're not attracting. When no one is around you to influence you, you find what really calls to you. And that's how I found mixed martial arts, because I was like, I really like this, I'm really interested in this, I want to get good at this, I don't know why, but it's pulling at me, and I'm going to honor that. So I started training, and I found the brotherhood in the MMA gym, and that really gave me some social connection, and that was really powerful for me. When other people's opinions, judgments, and expectations do not come into the equation, you can make your own most authentic decisions. Obviously, they will always play some part in your decision-making processes, because we are social creatures at the end of the day, but it certainly has less of an impact, and it leaves you to do more of what you really want to do. Obviously, when people say, oh, don't care about anyone's opinions about you, man. It's like, yeah, try that. It's not going to work. That's not realistic. It's not practical. We know we care about certain people's opinions, but another thing I've learned about spending more time alone is that you learn whose opinions to value. You don't just value any given person's opinion, some random, some stranger, someone that you don't respect, someone that you wouldn't like to be like, someone that you don't admire, someone that doesn't bring out your best self. Why should you value their opinion? Do you think they know something you don't? I mean, they might do. And I always think it's wise to treat somebody Sorry about that, guys, my video just cut out because my storage is running super low. And I just did something, by the way. This is a key tip. If your storage on your iPhone is running low, make sure you clear your recently deleted folder. I just did that and it literally wiped out pretty much 70% of my storage that was being occupied. I was like, wow. I kept deleting all these apps, trying to figure out ways to free up storage on my phone. I was like, how is it taking up so much storage? Well, there's the reason, because you recently deleted still counts as storage. Get rid of it. Anyway, back to the video. What I was going to say was that I think it's wise to approach people, anybody, as if they might have something to teach you, regardless of who that person is, regardless of your judgments around that person, because then you approach them in an open-minded manner and with humility. And if they do have something to teach you, then you're in a state that is reciprocal to receive it. And so I think that's very valuable and wise. But there's one thing that I need to say, and that's in regards to the people that you love and you care about and their opinion. Obviously, you should value their opinion to some extent, but I don't think you should value it on the same level as the people that you consciously respect and admire and want to be like, because you're choosing to admire those people. You're choosing to respect those people due to something about them, something about their character, something about their attributes. And the people that you love, some people think love is a choice. I don't think love is a choice. I think love is a feeling. It's an unconscious feeling. It's something that you can't really control. You know, love takes over, you know. The times in my life when I have felt the strongest love, when I look back, have all been times I have not chosen to feel so. And I'm sure you can resonate with that. It's a feeling we can't control. And so yeah, obviously you will value and respect the opinions of those you love and care about. But is it on the same level as those you admire and respect for reasons that are legitimately about them? Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. And true love, which is unconditional love, it isn't based on a certain characteristic or attribute. So it is certainly different. Although it is still respected, it's a different kind of respect. What I want to end this video with is the final takeaways on solitude. I feel like there are necessary prices to pay for us to get what we really want in life. There are necessary sacrifices we need to make. And that's all about the philosophy of discipline. You know, a lot of times when we discipline ourselves, we do things we don't want to do, and we don't do things we do want to do in the moment. We make sacrifices now for future gain, and that's what delaying gratification is all about. And so what comes with spending a lot of time alone is quite a bit of longing for emotional connection. For me specifically, because I'm a bit of an introvert, I don't want a massive social circle. And if I did, I think I would have probably pursued it to some extent by now. It's been a good couple of years, but I'd just like a small, solid, good social circle and an amazing woman by my side. That's all I'd need. But sometimes I do get a desire and an emotional craving for a romantic element of my life, you know. But this is the thing, if I can't yet attract the kind of woman that I really want, why should I settle for less? You know, that's going back, that's taking a step back. That's prioritizing immediate gratification over delayed gratification. And while I build myself in solitude, while I keep constantly improving and focusing on the things I can control until I can control more, well, I'm gonna have to be alone, because I'm not going to lower my standards for comfort. I'm just not going to do that. I've done it before, and it makes you feel even worse about yourself. Honestly, it's not worth it. It's really not. It might be good in the moment, but it won't bring you fulfillment. What will bring you fulfillment is staying true to yourself and true to what you really want. And if you really want something, it's that or nothing. Do you know what I mean? You're all in on it. You're so committed that you're not willing to settle for anything less than what you truly want. And I think that delivers the best results. And so if I have to go through this period, you know, I'm 19 years old now, if I have to be alone and spend a lot of time in solitude and, you know, sacrifice the social part of my life until I'm 25, 30, so be it. I'm willing to pay that price, because I know that the man that I'm becoming in this process is worth it. That man is going to look back and he's going to be proud of the sacrifices I've made today. That man is going to look back when he has his wife, when he has his children, you know, when he has a good social circle around him. He's going to look back and he's going to say, Ryan, you did the right thing, because you built yourself. You sacrificed immediate pleasure and immediate comfort for long-term gain. You either sacrifice for what you want, or what you want becomes a sacrifice. And it's as simple as that. It kind of helps that I'm already a bit of an introvert anyway, like I said. But even if you aren't, spending time alone can be extremely transformative. It can give you deeper insight into yourself, deeper understanding of who you are, who you want to be, where you want to go, what your purpose is, how your past experiences have shaped you, and it goes on and on and on. The self-discovery that's available from spending time in solitude is unparalleled to anything else, I believe. You are who you truly are when nobody else is watching. Always remember that. And so when you do spend time with yourself, get to know yourself. Get to know yourself like you would get to know a friend, like a person you truly valued. Be there for yourself like someone you truly want to help. Make decisions with your future self in mind. That's the message of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, subscribe and like, drop a comment about what you thought about this video and something you might like me to talk about, or something you've experienced, or something you think about this concept. I'd love to read your comments. Anyway, I'm Ryan Bain. You've been amazing. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.